Hare Krishna, everybody. We'll start with the invocation. The invocation is on the introduction page of your Bhagavad Gita. Please follow along. Om Ajnanaatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vande Aham Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijan Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, thank you all for coming. We welcome Dhara and Paulumi. Dhara is almost caught up with the class recordings and Paulumi is in the process of also getting caught up. So welcome, and even though you are not caught up, please feel free to ask any and all questions. We also welcome Jinal. Jinal has been listening to class recordings from beginning. Today she has joined virtually also. Welcome as well.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
So we will continue chapter 2, verse 47 onwards. And obviously our class will become very heavy. And partway through the class, I will explain a little more about this heaviness of the class as well. Don't worry. All this anxiety will smooth out when we do the summary of chapter 1 and chapter 2 very soon after we end chapter 2. So we are in section 4 of chapter 2. Section 4 is verses 38 to 53. Title is Nishkam Karma Yoga Fight. Verses 38 to 46, Karma Yoga is described. We discussed last time the theory part of the Karma Yoga. And verses 47 to 53, how to practice Karma Yoga is described. So we'll discuss that today from verse number 47 onwards. So I described earlier also that Nishkam Karma Yoga is the second and the next level higher application of the Atma Gyan. The Atma Gyan was in chapter 2, verses 11 to 30, that you are not this body, you are a soul. And the first application was Karma Kanda. And now Krishna is taking Arjuna even one step higher. Krishna is saying that this is Krishna's response to Arjuna's argument of fear of sinful reaction in fighting the war. And Krishna says, by working in Nishkam Karma Yoga way, you can stay free of all sinful reactions. So in this section, Krishna is describing how one should live in a Nishkam Karma Yoga way, meaning in a detached way in this material world, so as to attain the eternal spiritual world. Now 2.47 is not a key memorization verse, but definitely a very important verse. It's the Nishkam Karma Yoga verse. And we will recite this verse in Sanskrit. And the dual purpose of reciting in Sanskrit, that one, obviously, it's a key verse, plus it's a practice of the Sanskrit. So as we progress, we will try to memorize some of the verses so that when our Siksha Guru, His Grace, Bhakti Yoga Prabhu, comes to teach us Sanskrit, we get a lot more benefit out of it. So I will recite, and then you all can unmute and recite one line after me, please. So I have the verse on the screen as well. And you will notice that the first line, which says Karmani eva adhikaraste, this word eva adhikaraste seems like a very big word and difficult to pronounce. Prabhupada has done it very simple for us. So if you look at the word for word meaning, Prabhupada has split this very long word into eva and adhikar. Then it becomes easier to pronounce. So initially, try to follow what Prabhupada has given us in the word for word translation, and it will become easier to recite Sanskrit as we go along. So I will recite 2.47 first. Karmani eva adhikaraste ma paleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbhur ma te sango astu akarmani. I request all of you to please unmute and recite one line after me, please. Karmani eva adhikaraste
कर्माणि
Karmani eva
eva
adhikaraste
adhikaraste
ma phaleshu kadachana
ma
ma
phaleshu
phaleshu
kadachana
kadachana
ma karma phala heturbhur
ma
ma
karma
karma
phala
phala
heturbhur
heturbhur
ma te sango astu akarmani.
ma te
mate
sango
sango
astu
akarmani.
karmani.
Very good. Dhara translation.
You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty.
So this is a 4-part verse. This is a very widely quoted verse and rarely understood verse. Each of the 4 lines, means each of the 4 parts, have significance. So I have described earlier that chapter 2 is a summary of entire Bhagavad Gita, and I will give you examples of this. Now this 2.47 is a Nishkam Karma Yoga verse, one verse. This verse, 2.47, gets expanded in granular form in chapters 3, 4, and 5, which are essentially on Karma Yoga. So I'm just giving an example. There are a few other examples that I will quote. Not all of them, but some of them I will quote. So the first line says you have the right to do karma, but most people, or at least I think, I have the right to results without putting any effort. Work in the material world is performed not just for material results, but also for spiritual results. Now, question may become how work generates spiritual results. If one works according to worldly standards and not according to scriptures, then one will continue at the ordinary worldly level. But if one understands spiritual knowledge and tries to practice spiritual knowledge, then one understands that I am a soul and I have to rise to the level of soul by purification. If you take those sections of Bhagavad Gita that simply fit to your worldview and reject the rest of the Bhagavad Gita because they are too difficult, then we miss out on what Bhagavad Gita can offer us. So Krishna is saying, seek eternal, don't seek temporary. In 2.11 to 30, Krishna described that soul is eternal. And therefore in 2.38, Krishna said, do not worry about loss or gain. Just do your duty with detachment. So in this section, from verses 47 to 53, Krishna is describing how one should live to attain the eternal. Now, what does purification mean? Soul is Sachidananda. The impurities or the conditioning makes the soul to forget this fact that soul is Sachidananda. And purification means all impurities subside by coming in contact with Krishna. The purpose of studying is learning, to develop thinking capacity, and not just to pass an exam. Good marks in an exam are just a byproduct. So purification does not mean that I have no desires. Rather, purification means you replace material desires with spiritual desires, meaning desire for Krishna, desire for devotional service. And dovetail everything material into Krishna's service. When we do our worldly duties with basic spiritual understanding of life, means that when I act with detachment, my understanding increases that I am soul. I am not this body. Because my action leads to transformation. So the purpose of yoga means any action to connect with the Supreme, is not just to acquire fruit, but purpose of yoga is growth of wisdom. Now the second line, 2.47 says, we should not demand the fruits. Not worrying about results does not mean not caring. Not caring would mean misunderstanding Bhagavad Gita. Example, on a Sunday feast, the cooks are cooking the Sunday feast without caring how it will taste. So generally, results motivate us. But idea is that we do not do our duty just for the results. But we do our duty because we know that through this we will get purification. So when we cook for Gopinath or we take darshan, yes, we want all to go well because they are for Krishna. But that is not our primary objective. Our primary objective is to please Krishna. Krishna is pleased not just by our results, but Krishna is pleased by our endeavor. Therefore, from day one, I have been asking all of you that whatever endeavor I give you, please endeavor. Don't worry about whether it's right or wrong. Endeavor, that's what Krishna is looking for. So if we do our services wholeheartedly, and even if results do not come out the way we wanted to, Krishna is still pleased with our endeavor. So in terms of motivation, there are 3 levels of why people work, or what is the motivation for work. The first is to get results. So this is the lowest level. This is how materialistic people live. That I will put in so much effort and I need to see how much profit I am getting. The next level up is to purify ourselves, meaning we do service to purify us. And the third and the highest level highest motive is that I do this because I want to please Krishna. If I did some activity and there is no results, and if I think that I wasted my time because of no results, then my consciousness is not spiritual. I am still stuck at the material profit and loss situation. So doing an activity for purification is good. This is our goal. Goal is to purify, to know our relationship with Krishna. Hence, this motive also frees us from the dependence on results, which will become liberating. If we cook, we do services with the attitude of pleasing Krishna, then irrespective of the results, if our endeavor is wholehearted, then we are pleasing Krishna. Therefore, the second line of 2.47, no right to results, does not mean we do not care for results or we do not strive for results. But primary motive is not results. Primary motive is purification at the Bhakti Yoga level and purification at the Karma Yoga level and at the Bhakti Yoga level, which is highest form, is to please Krishna. If the goal is material results, then I don't have spiritual consciousness, hence I cannot make spiritual advancement because I will be constantly thinking about the results. The third line of 2.47 says one should not think of oneself as the producer of result. Now, how is that you are not the cause of results? Almost all of us are from India, or at least know about cricket from India. That say when few years back when India won the Cricket World Cup and Dhoni hit a 6 on the last ball, that the player is hitting 6 on the last ball to win. And how is it that the player is not responsible for the result? The answer is Krishna is saying that do not think that you are the only cause of results. The causes of results are 5 causes for any action. It's described in chapter 18 around verse 14, 13, 14, 15 verses, as well as is described in chapter 5. I will describe the 5 causes. So for any activity to happen in the material world, these 5 causes have to come together for the results. The 5 causes are Jiva desires, Ishvara sanctions, Prakriti executes, the senses to execute, and the endeavor itself. So that's what Krishna is saying, that don't think you alone are the doer of the results. That results are not entirely in our hands. These 5 factors have to come together, and many of them are beyond our control. To the extent I think I am the cause of the results, to that extent I will be bound. And to the extent we don't think ourselves as the cause of the results, To that extent, we will not be bound. If I think I am the cause of the results, example, say right now, I think I am giving a good class, then I start thinking that I am a preacher. Then I start identifying myself as a preacher. This is a different identification than my real identification as the eternal servant of Krishna. By this inner consciousness that I am servant of Krishna while giving a class or doing any endeavor, one can stay detached. And the fourth line says, one should not think that because I may not get the results, so I should not do the karma. So do not be attached to inaction, because it is action only that purifies us. Primary goal of yoga is to connect with Krishna. We can connect with Krishna only when my consciousness is not obsessed with temporary material things. Remember verse 2.44, Bhoga Aishwarya, that I am constantly thinking of Bhoga and Aishwarya. Therefore, 2.41, Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, that Eke Kuru Nandana, one-pointed attention to Krishna consciousness does not happen. Without activity, it is not artificially possible to think of Krishna. We have to think of Krishna generally by rendering service to him. It is service that purifies and elevates and liberates us. So let me summarize 2.47. First says, you have the right to do work because prescribed duties given to you to purify you. Second says, do not be caught up in the results because it will not allow us to be spiritually conscious. Third line says, do not think we are producers of results. Otherwise, we will identify ourselves with our material skills, material identity, and forget our spiritual identity, and thus forget Krishna. And the last line says, do not be attached to inactivity, because inactivity will not purify us. It is engaging our body, mind, and speech in yoga is how we will get purified. I will pause here for any questions, comments, realizations. All right. Jinal, are you able to read 2.48 translation?
Yes. Perform your duty equipoised, O Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga.
So Krishna is giving definition of yoga here as samatvam, means equipoised, because such equanimity is the platform for practice of yoga. If my consciousness is locked to getting material things one after the other, then I cannot think of Krishna. When I am equipoised in material things, then I can look beyond matter and think of spiritual reality. So samatvam means equanimity towards material things. This creates the foundation by which we can practice spiritual life. There is nothing in this world to be too excited about or too agitated about, because it is all temporary. Therefore, be equipoised. So we all know the definition of yoga as connection with Krishna. But that connection will happen only when I am focused on Krishna instead of looking here and there. And this staying focused is the art of yoga. Therefore, Krishna is giving in 2.48 a second definition of yoga, that be equipoised, and a couple verses down he will give a third definition as well. Everybody on the same page? All right. So 2.49 is a very important verse. So I want all of you to step into Arjuna's shoes. I'm going to ask you a question when we read 2.49. Therefore, step into Arjuna's shoes. What has happened so far in Bhagavad Gita? Arjuna says, I cannot kill my relatives. And Krishna says, you are not this body, you are soul. Do karma kanda, do duty and enjoy heaven or earth. And then Krishna takes Arjuna one step higher to Nishkam Karma Yoga, that do your duty without attachment, and then there will be no sinful reaction. So 2.49, Matan Prabhu can read the first two lines in Sanskrit as well as the word for word meaning of the first two lines and then the translation.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Turenahi avaram karma buddhi yoga tananam jaya buddhahu saranam.
Just two lines and the word for word for the first two lines.
Okay. Synonym. Turena discarded a long distance. He certainly avaram abominable karma activity buddhi yoga on the strength of Krishna consciousness. Tanam jaya, O conqueror wealth. Buddhahu in such. Okay. O Dhananjaya, keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service, and in that consciousness surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. Purport?
No. So Krishna is saying avaram karma means abominable. I want all of you to answer. You have all stepped in Arjuna's shoes. I want you to answer, what is abominable karma? Everybody, please answer quickly. Everybody, what is abominable karma? Okay. Padma Kumar says vikarma. Okay. Rest of you? So vikarma means sinful. So what is abominable here? Everybody, please answer. Don't worry about right or wrong. We just discussed. Try your best.
Like the sinful activities.
Okay, sinful activities. Okay, same as Padma Kumar Prabhu. Okay, rest of you.
Is it like something that only looks for materialistic enjoyment or no action? Maybe that's also materialistic, being lazy.
Okay, materialistic. Okay, rest of you, please answer. So I made you all step in Arjuna's shoes. What is abominable for Arjuna here? Everybody, please.
Running away from duties.
Okay, running away from duties. Okay, who else was trying to speak?
Arjuna's attachment towards his family.
Okay, rest of you, please answer. Those who have not answered. Very important question. This will lead to Arjuna going on to ask a question down the line. What is abominable?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, destructive activities.
Okay, so like fighting the war here.
just harming to someone.
So isn't what that Arjuna thinking that he has to kill relatives? Is that abominable for him? Ritu?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. The rest of you have not answered. What is abominable?
Like the activities that he does not want to perform.
Like what?
Like unpleasant fighting.
So, okay, fighting is abominable. Okay. All right. Okay. So, let me explain what is going on here. Krishna is saying, so Paulima actually answered it correctly. So, Krishna is saying to give up karma kanda and practice karma yoga at the highest form using buddhi. So, Krishna is saying, seek eternal, don't seek temporary with the karma kanda way, because karma kanda at best can take you to heaven, and going to heaven is like going to a resort. Heaven is also a temporary and a miserable place. So Krishna is calling karma kanda as abominable, but Arjuna is obviously at the bodily concept of life, and he's thinking that killing relatives is abominable. And this will lead to further inquiry from Arjuna. We'll discuss at great length the start of chapter 3. So craving for temporary material things that can never satisfy shows that I am not choosing permanent relief. Instead of choosing for infinite longings, we can choose longing for the infinite. This statement is the essence of chapter 10 of Bhagavad Gita. That instead of choosing for infinite longings, we can choose longing for the infinite. Misers do not know that human life, even though temporary, can give us eternal results. So this verse 2.49 leads to a confusion or misunderstanding as to what Krishna is saying versus what Arjuna is understanding, resulting in Arjuna posing a question in chapter 3 verses 1 and 2. Everybody on the same page?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Nishant Prabhu, 2.50 translation.
Sure. A man engaged in devotional service rids himself of both good and bad actions even in this life. Therefore, strive for yoga, which is the art of all work.
So Krishna is giving another definition of yoga. Yoga means connection with Supreme. Then 2.48, Krishna gave samatvam, means equipoised, as another definition of yoga. And here in 2.50, Krishna is saying engage in yoga. So in 2.38, if you recall, Krishna is saying engage in fight. And therefore in 2.50, Krishna is saying engage in yoga. Both fight and yoga is one and the same thing. So Kshatriya will do yoga by fighting. Brahmana, Vaishya, Shudra can perform yoga by doing their respective duties. So 2.50, the definition is yoga is the art or expertise. Expertise means working in such a way in the material world that our work becomes spiritually conscious. How can I think of Krishna doing my day-to-day regular work? This is the art or the expertise and this becomes yoga. So it is not easy, but I have given you few pointers and I will continue to give you pointers as we progress. And by steady practice, gradually remembering Krishna 24 hours will become easier and easier and easier. So just because I am absorbed in something material, that does not make it spiritual. It is the connection with the spiritual reality is what makes it spiritual. Therefore, the definition of yoga is connection with the supreme absolute truth. By doing yoga, one is able to give up good and bad results of past karma. And one more key point in 2.50 is the word, Sanskrit word iha, means you can attain liberation in this life itself. Iha means this life itself. Provided if one practices devotional service and does yoga with diligence. Questions, comments, realizations? Okay. Padma Kumar Prabhu, 51 and 52 translations.
By thus engaging in devotional service to the Lord, great sages or devotees free themselves from the results of work in the material world. In this way, they become free from the cycle of birth and death and attain the state beyond all miseries by going back to Godhead. When your intelligence have passed out of the dense forest of delusion, you shall become indifferent to all that has been heard and all that is to be heard.
So for the first time in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is describing higher than heaven, meaning liberation, saying back to Godhead. So with buddhi means with intelligence, you dovetail one's work or one's regular karma, one gives up attachment to the fruits. Material world is a trap. You don't know what I should do. What is my goal? Sadhana and sadhya is not clear. Sadhana means the process to reach the ultimate goal, and sadhya means the goal. So sadhana and sadhya is not clear. Therefore, my intelligence is trapped in the forest of delusion. Intelligence has passed out of forest of delusion means intelligence is no longer deluded. Should I do this? Should I do that? No, but now I have one-pointed focus on Krishna consciousness. I have come out of delusion. That's when you know that you have advanced in Krishna consciousness. We will come out fully of the forest of delusion when we are no longer attracted by the promises of pleasure in this world. Practicing devotional service does not mean that I am out of the forest of delusion. Practicing devotional service means I am just trying to come out of the forest of delusion. Are we on the same page? Ritu, 2.53 translation. Abhishek Prabhu has a question.
What is the meaning here saying that you will become indifferent to all that is heard and to be heard?
Yeah, very good point. So whatever we hear or whatever we have heard is what attracts us and binds us in the material world. So when you hear something, say, as an insult, you feel bad. Generally, I will feel bad. Why? Because I am at bodily concept of life. Insult is at the ego level. So I will feel bad. But if my intelligence is beyond the forest of delusion, I am at a little advanced, purified state, then I am not at bodily level. So if somebody insults me, well, he is insulting body, has nothing to do with me as a soul. That's what it says, that when we become indifferent to whatever we hear or whatever we have heard so far. Abhishek Prabhu?
Thank you, Prabhu.
Ritu 2.23.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. When your mind is no longer disturbed by the flowery language of the Vedas, and when it remains fixed in the trance of self-realization, then you will have attained the divine consciousness.
So our mind is deluded because our intelligence is deluded. Once intelligence is fixed, then mind won't be able to shake us. Yoga means to be undisturbed by everything material. When you are undisturbed by material is also when you know that you have attained spiritual. So summary of Nishkam Karma Yoga. Krishna has talked about how to practice Karma Yoga, Nishkam Karma Yoga, that by staying equipoised in material ups and downs and staying fixed in spiritual reality, that's how you stay detached and you are at Nishkam Karma Yoga level. So here's a question for all of you. Are you all ready to practice Nishkam Karma Yoga level? Chuckling why I'm asking. Everybody? Yes, no, silence. Are you all ready to practice Nishkam Karma Yoga?
Prabhuji is quite difficult, but we should try.
Very good. Yeah, difficult. Yeah.
It is difficult, Prabhuji. Yeah. But it's possible. If I think before doing action, if I think that will this make Krishna happy, and then think if it makes me happy, maybe then it will be a bit easier.
Okay, very good. Yes, that it is difficult, but it is definitely possible. Rest of you? Kumar Prabhu.
Oh, no, please explain this flowery language of Vedas. What does that mean?
Yeah. So Vedas are very wide, and Vedas are largely at Karma Kanda level. And towards the end, they talk about that ultimate goal is to serve Krishna, to know Krishna. So when people in the material world start reading Vedas and try to follow Vedas, it generally is not possible to complete studying Vedas and follow Vedas in one life. So what people do is they start Vedas and they say, oh, I am following Vedas. And that's also Arjuna also pointed out a few verses earlier that those who are following Karma Kanda, they are following Vedas. So what's wrong with it? Therefore, Krishna said that one has to rise above the modes. Vedas normally talk about the modes that you are under. So if you read 2.45, that's what Krishna says, that Vedas mainly deal with the subject matter of modes. But we have to rise above the modes. And what materialistic people are, those who follow Karma Kanda, they look at this flowery language that, okay, I can get married and enjoy material life in a dharmic way. This is all flowery language. And this is what Krishna called 2.49 as abominable, because it will keep you bound in the material world. Therefore, give up this flowery language. Like it sounds very nice that I am following Vedas and living a life in a dharmic way, but it still is abominable because it is going to keep you bound in the material world. Padma Kumar Prabhu, does that help you?
Yes, Prabhu.
Rest of you who did not answer, a couple devotees have answered in the chat. That seems difficult, but we can give it a try. Yes, very good. Rest of you, are you ready to practice Nishkam Karma Yoga? Jinal is ready. Very good. Thank you. Rest
Yes,
of you.
Prabhuji.
Okay. So why I asked this question is the next section of chapter 2 is section 5, verses 54 to 72. Title is Characteristics of Sthita Prajna. So Arjuna is going to ask 4 questions in 2.54. When Arjuna heard this Nishkam Karma Yoga, so Arjuna is saying, who is this Nishkam Karma Yogi? How does he act? How does he engage his senses? How does he walk? Will he fight? That's what Arjuna is going to ask. 2.54. It's a very important verse. Again, not a key memorization verse, but definitely a very important verse. So at the start of chapter 2, I have stated that you all will become overwhelmed very soon if you are not already overwhelmed. These verses 2.54 to 72 is one of the most practical section of Bhagavad Gita for us sadhakas. These verses should be memorized and recited because these verses give directions on how to live according to scriptures at the level of soul. For the past 5 batches, I have done these verses 54 to 72 at 50% pace or at even slower pace at 25% pace. Does not matter. Everybody have had the same comments that these are very, very hard verses to comprehend. So I am going to go at a set pace because no matter what I do, you all are also bound to say that these are very heavy verses. Why I am going to go at a set pace, even though it is going to overwhelm you, is because when you understand all the verses and when we do the summary of chapter 1 and 2 after we finish chapter 2, that's when a lot of these things will make sense. And rest of the Bhagavad Gita after chapter 2 becomes easier, plus has answers to what all confusion these 2.54 to 72 verses will create in all of you. Everybody okay with the plan? Everybody prepared to get overwhelmed? If you are not already overwhelmed. Silence.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you. So 2.54 is again not a key memorization verse, but definitely a very important verse. So I will recite the Sanskrit and you let me know if you would like to recite one line after me. Would you like to recite?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, very good. So let me first recite so you know how to pronounce. So 2.54, Arjuna Uvacha Sthita Pragnasya Kabhasha Samadhistasya Keshava Sthitadi Kim Prabhasheta Kim Asita Vrajeta Kim. Unmute yourself and recite one line after me, please. Arjuna Uvacha.
Arjuna
Arjuna
Vacha.
Vacha.
Stita Pragnasya Ka Bhasha.
Stita
Stita
Pragnasya
Pragnasya Ka Bhasha.
Samadhistasya Keshava.
Samadhistasya
Samadhistasya
Keshava.
Keshava.
Stitadi Kim Prabhasheta.
Stitadhi kim prabhaseta.
Kim Asita Vrajeta Kim.
Kim
Asita
asita
Vrajeta
vrajeta
Kim.
kim.
Very good. Paulami, if you want to read the translation from the book or from the screen, whichever way works for you.
Yes, Prabhuji. Arjuna said, O Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak? And what is his language? How does he sit and how does he walk?
So Arjuna is asking these questions because right now Arjuna is caught up in bodily concept of life. Hence Arjuna is asking characteristics of such a Nishkam Karma Yogi to know whether a Nishkam Karma Yogi will fight or not. So most audience, they hear either what they agree or what they disagree. So Krishna has spoken a lot from verse number 11 onwards. And Arjuna is simply focused on his main problem, whether Arjuna should fight or not. And Arjuna is trying to find ways to avoid war. So Krishna has said to Arjuna to fight in 2.37 and 2.38. From 2.39 to 2.53, which is essentially Nishkam Karma Yoga section, there has been a lot of discussion, but 2.39 to 2.53, there has been no mention of fight. Krishna did say the art of yoga, means be an expert of yoga. But Arjuna is not really thinking that way. I am exactly in that position. I am not thinking that I have to make my day-to-day work as yoga. Plus, in 2.59, Krishna said, keep this far distance abominable work. So we already discussed that although in 2.49, by abominable work, Krishna is referring to Karma Kanda, because Karma Kanda is not liberating. Karma Kanda is going to bound you in the material world, even if you attain heaven. But Arjuna is thinking that killing my relatives is abominable. So since there is no mention of fighting in this last Nishkam Karma Yoga section from verses 39 to 53, therefore Arjuna is asking, what are the characteristics of such a Nishkam Karma Yogi? Because Arjuna wants to know whether such a Nishkam Karma Yogi will fight the war or not. So I had given you the section 5 title as Sthita Prajna, comes directly from 2.54 verse. So Prajna means intelligence and Sthita means fixed. So Sthita Prajna means fixed in intelligence. I request all of you to please write down the 4 questions and besides it, the verse reference for where the answer is given. As I progress, I will keep answering them as well. So question number 1 in 2.54 says Ka Bhasha, means characteristics. So what are the characteristics of Nishkam Karma Yogi? This is answered in 2.55. Second question is Kim Prabhasheta, means speech. So questions 1 and 2 are related questions. And question 2 is answered in 2.56 and 57. Third question is Kim Asita, how restrained senses. The answer is given in 2.58 to 63 verses. Fourth question is, Kim Vrajeta? How engage senses? The answer is given in 2.64 to 71. Everybody on the same page? So question 1 is Ka Bhasha, or what are the characteristics of such a Nishkam Karma Yogi? And the answer is given in 2.55. Abhishek Prabhu, 2.55 translation.
Hare Krishna. 2.55. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of desire for sense gratification, which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind, thus purified, finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness.
So two characteristics of such a Nishkam Karma Yogi are, first, give up all desires. Second, satisfied within by turning the mind inwards. Our desire is to be happy. If a person gives up all desires, then how can such a person be happy? Therefore, Krishna says Manogatam. So Manogatam means desires originating from the mind are to be given up. I have explained that we will have a lot of discussions about mind. It starts from here, as well as the spiritual endeavor lecture that you're going to get for today. It's an out of the world lecture. So Manogata, desires originating from the mind are to be given up. So there are three levels of existence. Soul is at spiritual level. Second, mind is at subtle level. And third, senses or sense objects are at gross bodily level. So the soul's consciousness is rooted through the mind outward, through the senses, to the external world, resulting in pains and pleasure. Therefore, desire for senses contact with external sense objects and the pleasure thereof is to be rejected. Consciousness can either go outwards towards externals, or we can direct our thoughts inwards for inner happiness. So the defining characteristics of Sthita Prajna is that such a person rejects external pleasures and rejoices inner pleasures. Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that materialistic people seek pleasure externally, while spiritualists seek pleasure internally. So listening to Kirtan, taking darshan of Gopinath may seem external pleasures, but they are external pleasures that take us inwards. There are external pleasures in this world that can take us further outwards if we are attached to sense objects, because sense objects don't have any intrinsic connection with us at the level of soul. So internally, internal happiness is the pleasure is the contact of soul with Krishna in our heart. When we contact Krishna externally, say by taking darshan, by hearing kirtan, by doing devotional services, we awaken spiritually. The more we become awake spiritually, more we can perceive and relish Krishna internally. So at initial stages of devotional service at the sadhaka level, we all need this external stimulus, such as darshan and kirtan, to remind us of Krishna, as well as allowing us to connect with Krishna through the kirtan and darshan. Many think whatever is inside me is internal, and whatever is outside me is external. This is incorrect. When I look inside to find peace, I don't know about you, but I only find agitation inside me. I only find desires. If we think what is inside me is spiritual and what is outside me is material, that is because we still consider ourselves to be the body. Inside the body, we have the mind as well as the soul. I have described from the start that mind is a separate entity within our body. And mind is not spiritual. Contaminated mind is not spiritual. To understand this internal reference point, the reference point should not be body, but the reference point should be the soul. For a soul, body as well as mind are both external. I'll repeat this very important point. To understand internal reference, a reference point should not be body, but reference point should be soul. For a soul, both body and mind are external. Therefore, desires come inside in mind may seem internal, but from soul's point of view, the desires of the mind are also external. Therefore, Krishna is saying, look for happiness inside at the spiritual level and not at the mental level, because mental level is not internal from the soul's point of view. Therefore, Krishna says, Manogatam, give up mental desires and turns towards Krishna to find happiness within. Questions, comments, realizations? The first word starts with a bang. Silence, everybody on the same page? What was the key point from 2.55? Somebody quickly. Or key point from 2.55. Somebody?
Give up both mental and gross external desires, and be satisfied in soul's desire.
Yeah, very good. Manogatam. Why Manogatam? Because from soul's perspective, body and mind both are external. Very good. So you all had this spiritual endeavor between happiness and distress. What will you prefer? So I will bring up on screen the answers that the devotees have submitted for this question. And looking at the answers, you tell me, what does this answer tell you? So although I had asked, what would you prefer between material happiness and distress? Devotees answered differently. Some said bliss or happiness in Krishna consciousness. Some said material happiness. So bliss, wanting bliss in Krishna consciousness, 6 or almost 7% said that. Material happiness, almost 26% said that. Material distress, 13% said. Either material happiness or distress, roughly 26% said. Neither happiness nor material distress, then 26% said this. So I want all of you to look at this chart and tell me, what is this chart telling you? It's not just about numbers, but when you put some numbers on a chart, it should tell you something. What is this chart is telling you, everybody?
Hare Krishna, like I see that most of the thoughts are still on the material consideration.
Okay. All right. Rest of you, everybody quickly answer. Okay. Some devotee also answered material desires, okay, in the chat. Okay. Rest of you, very important to understand. I will bring up, I will explain the reason for this. What is this chart telling you?
Prabhuji is showing our mental status.
All right. Okay. Rest of you. Quickly.
They are in bodily platform.
Okay. Very good. Bodily platform.
Prabhuji, yes, bliss is experienced probably at a very high level of consciousness. It's very, I feel that since we know what we know,
Yeah,
and
very good.
we don't know what we don't know. So until we have experienced bliss, which probably we will through devotional services, we cannot want it.
Yeah,
So
very good.
it's easier to say no to something we already have experienced. So saying no to material is easy. But how to say yes to something we haven't experienced, that's why that bliss is very less.
Yeah, so we will practice this of living in this world at the level of soul, so that we can know what that bliss is and experience that bliss as well. Jinal wanted to say something. Jinal is also an accountant like me. So when we put numbers together, they should say something, right, Jinal?
Yes.
What are these numbers telling you?
Yeah, like still like we are inclined towards material happiness.
Yeah, very good. Anybody else? Now, the other thing I want you to realize, if you recall our previous chart, one number stood out. It was like 80% something. Here the numbers, aren't they all over? Isn't that also obvious that everybody is all over? There may be slight differences, but looks like you don't have a set number that stands out. They are everywhere. Yes, you can say material, everybody is at material. But even within material, somebody says, I want happiness. Somebody says, I want distress. Somebody says, I am okay, either happiness or distress. Somebody says, neither. Isn't that this is all over the place, this chart? Everybody, does that make sense?
Yes.
Rest of you?
Yes.
I will bring up on screen Srimad Bhagavatam verse to answer why the chart is all over. So this is Srimad Bhagavatam. All of me will read from the screen. This is Canto 3, Chapter 30, verse number 4. This describes material nature's two features, which is Avaranatmika Shakti and Prakshepatmika Shakti, which tells us that people in the material world don't know whether they are happy or distressed. And that became very obvious from the chart. Why this is happening is because we are under material nature, and this is the feature of material nature. Therefore, people in the material world don't know. And therefore, everybody at the bodily concept don't know. Follow me? So read the translation and the purport, please.
Yes, Prabhuji. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. The living entity, in whatever species of life he appears, finds a particular type of satisfaction in that species, and he is never averse to being situated in such a condition. Purport: the satisfaction of the living entity in a particular type of body, even if it is most abominable, is called illusion. A man in a higher position may feel dissatisfaction with the standard of life of a lower grade man, but the lower grade man is satisfied in that position because of the spell of Maya, the external energy. Maya has two phases of activities. One is called praksep, praksepmika, and the other is called avarnatmika. Avarnatmika means covering, and prapsepmika means pulling down. In any condition of life, the materialistic person or animal will be satisfied because his knowledge is covered by the influence of Maya. In the lower grade or lower species of life, the development of consciousness is so poor that one cannot understand whether he is happy or distressed. This is called our atmika. Even a hog who lives by eating stool finds himself happy, although a person in a higher mode of life sees that the hog is eating stool. How abominable is that life is.
Very good. So this is what Maya does, puts us in illusion. And we read whether the person is happy or distressed, he does not know. He's living a life of a hog, eating stool, but he thinks he is happy. This is materialistic life. And therefore, the chart was all over that how everybody says, oh, I want this, I want that, oh, I'll be happy with this, oh, I don't know, I'm either way, why neither way. Everybody on the same page. All right. So why I gave you this answer, or sorry, why I gave you this question. So what's the solution here? Or what do we do with happiness or distress, or what exactly do we do with this? What are we looking for? So to summarize, whether you would prefer happiness or distress, we need to remain equipoised amid material happiness or material distress and try to find happiness at the level of soul. Actually, there is no such thing as material happiness. Srila Prabhupada will say in many lectures, as well as in the Srimad Bhagavatam that I had on screen, the following verses go on to explain this, that material world is by default a place of misery, which is also described in Bhagavad Gita 8.16. And cessation of misery is what people call in the material world as happiness. So cessation of misery is not happiness. Real happiness is at spiritual level. Hence, we have to give up desires originating in the mind and find happiness at the spiritual soul level. Because for the soul, both body and mind are external. Inside our body, there is the soul and there is a contaminated mind. When a person leaves the body, the soul, the same contaminated mind, the same contaminated intelligence, the same contaminated false ego, all together go to the next body with the impressions of the previous lives. Desires originating in the mind are not soul's desires. Therefore, we need to learn to be able to see the mind so as to distinguish the desires of the mind and desires of the soul. So many devotees who come for practice with me at the Toronto temple, they have been able to practice how to be able to see the mind to a certain extent and how to distinguish. Next time, I and my team will go for services again. I will ask all of you to also come, those who are at least physically close by to Toronto. They can come for services, and I will describe more as we get closer to next service opportunity. So it is the mind that has been taking us from one life to the other for at least 155 trillion years in this cycle of creation. Therefore, we need to purify our mind. But first, we need to treat the mind as an untrusted outsider. We will need the mind to function in the world. We cannot drop our mind. Therefore, whatever we hear, whatever we see, whatever we hear and say, we have to validate from scriptures that if the activity is anukulye se sankalpa, means favorable for bhakti, then I will do that activity. Or if the activity is pratikulye se varjanam, meaning unfavorable for bhakti, then I will reject the activity. This is the way to distinguish whether the desires of the mind, whether the desires that are coming from inside are desires of the mind or they are desires of the soul. The better approach is to proactively busy the mind with Krishna conscious activities such as chanting, reading scriptures like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, doing devotional services, etc. This way, there will be very little room left for the mind to get deviated. Questions, comments, realizations? Are you all starting to get overwhelmed or already overwhelmed? Silence doesn't tell me anything. Please say something.
Already overwhelmed.
Yes.
Very good. So I already told you ahead of time, you are going to get overwhelmed. And this is just the first verse of the series of verses from 2.54 to 72. Just wait till we hit a few more verses. And all of them are similarly heavy. Don't worry. Don't worry about the overwhelm. Absorb what you can. Make notes or questions what you have. And when we will summarize chapter 1 and chapter 2, after we finish chapter 2, lot of those things will fall in their place just as puzzle pieces. All right, so 2.56. So this is question number 2. Krim prabhaseta, or what are the characteristics of speech of such a Nishkam Karma Yogi? And the answer is given in 2.56 and 2.57. Ritu, 2.56 translation.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. One who is not disturbed in mind, even amidst the threefold mysteries, or elated when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage of steady mind.
In distress, one does not become dejected, and in happiness, one does not think of getting more and more desires. Means one accepts whatever comes. These are the characteristics of a Nishkam Karma Yogi. Happiness generates more desires. I want more, 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 more. And when misery comes, at least I think, oh, why is this happening to me? But Sthita Prajna, is not affected by happiness nor by distress. Speech is determined by our thoughts. So this does not mean that superficially you speak in sweet words, but internally you would want to kill that person. Therefore, Krishna says that one is not agitated nor excited by happiness or distress. That is a Nishkam Karma Yogi. When devotee becomes fixed that Krishna is all in all, then mind does not wander here and there in the material world. When I get troubles in life, I assume by default that I don't deserve this. But a devotee thinks, these are my own bad karma. But actually, Krishna is great. Krishna has minimized the negative reaction. Therefore, devotee does not get agitated by misery. So many of, when I asked you question at 2.53, whether you are ready to practice Nishkam Karma Yoga, many of you correctly pointed out that it is difficult, and you can see why it is difficult. How many of you are equipoised to happiness and distress? Anybody? Silence speaks for itself. All right. 2.57. Nishant Prabhu, translation and purport faster pace, please.
In the material world, one who is unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain, neither praising it or nor depraising it, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. Purport. There is always some upheaval in the material world which may be good or evil. One who is not agitated by such material upheavals, who is unaffected by good or evil, is to be understood to be fixed in Krishna consciousness. As long as one is the material world, there is always the possibility of good and evil, because this world is full of duality. But one who is fixed in Krishna consciousness is not affected by good and evil, because he is simply concerned with Krishna, who is all good absolute. Such consciousness is Krishna situates one in a perfect transcendental position called technically Samadhi.
So, such a Nishkam Karma Yogi does not praise when good comes and does not resent when bad comes. In this world, good and bad will keep happening. So how does a devotee stay undisturbed? Devotee does not have to desynthesize from good or bad or artificially not feel good or bad. Rather, devotee focuses on synthesizing on the spiritual. When their vision is focused on the spiritual, then the material is perceived, but the material does not dominate their perception. So upheaval, this word, generally refers to bad. But we read in the purport, Srila Prabhupada uses upheaval for good also. How come? The answer is, anything that distracts us is upheaval. When we gain success in the material world is when we let our guard down. This is the time when Maya attacks us. If good or happiness distracts us from focus of Krishna consciousness, then that happiness, the material happiness, is also bad. Therefore, one should not be disturbed by the good also, by the happiness also. Questions, comments, realizations?
Prabhuji, I connected with this one because that happiness will also be temporary, right? If
Yeah.
it's with Maya. Probably that's why it has to be permanent. So, yeah, that's why many cases I have felt very empty. Let's say after being first in class or somewhere, I thought that will make me happy. No, it didn't.
Very
It
good,
was
very
very
good, very good, correct realization that material happiness, it's temporary. And to begin with, what Prabhupada has described, cessation of misery is what we call as happiness. Happiness does not exist in the material. Very good. Thank you for sharing. Rest of you. All right, 2.58. Padma Kumar Prabhu will read. So Krishna has advised earlier that one should be detached from material. From verse number 58 onwards, Krishna describes how to detach from the external material world. Padma Kumar Prabhu.
Translation: one who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects, as the tortoise draws his limbs within the shell, is firmly fixed in perfect consciousness.
Yeah, read the purport, first 7 lines about. I will stop you.
Test of a yogi, devotee, or a self-realized soul is that he is able to control the senses according to his plan. Most people, however, are the servants of the senses and are thus directed by the dictation of the senses. That is the answer to the question that how the yogi is situated. The senses are compared to venomous serpents. They want to act very loosely and without restriction. The yogi or the devotee must be very strong to control the serpents like a snake charmer. He never allows them to act independently.
Yeah, senses. Our senses are our weak points. What did I say? Our senses are our weak points in our body. And 24 hours, with our senses, we perceive the external world. Therefore, we have to guard our senses. Srila Prabhupada says, yogi is one who can control the senses according to a plan. Example, about talking. So devotee talks about Krishna, and at other times when there is other talking happening, devotee may not talk. Means devotee withdraws the sense of talking. For example, seeing. Devotee knows so much to see, so he does not let his eyes wander around as radars. Eyes are radars, are scanning constantly. But because our intelligence is deluded, danger seems a welcomeable object, therefore tempted to enjoy. So we don't have to look around like radars, but we have to look inwards, means withdraw our senses inwards. Sorry. And that's how we protect from being entangled from sense objects. If we let ourselves get caught by the parade of sense gratification that is out there, then we get tired because there are always so many desires, and every desire creates a pang in the heart. This constant conflict between wanting something and knowing that we cannot get it, there will always be unscalable gap between our fantasies and our finances. The more we prey on sense objects, the more that gap increases. Example, this advertisement industry fills our fantasies with more and more and more. When we cannot fulfill those fantasies, the inner conflict de-energizes us. If we don't want to be de-energized, then we have to be cautious and protect our senses first, because senses are our weak points. What we have to do with our senses, Krishna explains in later verses. Srila Prabhupada already explains in the purport here. Srila Prabhupada says, engage your senses in Krishna's service. So you have to ask yourself, do I need to look at these things? If I don't, then let me not do it. Now, don't test your spiritual advancement by exposing to senses to test if you will stay strong. Because exposing to senses is suicidal. Even if nothing happens externally immediately, but internally an impression gets created. The way to test spiritual advancement is dedication to Krishna's service. Understand this with an example. That if you want to test a tiger, whether the tiger is sleeping or dead, and similarly, if you want to test whether your lust is sleeping, let it sleep. And your lust will die in the sleep itself. But if you pinch the tiger, means if you pinch your lust to test, it can be disastrous. Therefore, devotee does not expose oneself to sense objects. Now, avoiding the exposure, simultaneously we need positive application, positive engagement of the senses that keep us engaged in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, Krishna says, first step, minimize or withdraw from external exposure to sense objects. And Krishna says, this first step of minimizing or withdrawing from external sense objects is not enough. Therefore, he will explain in the next verse 2.59 the next step of positive engagement. But I will pause here for any questions, comments, realizations. Gina?
What does withdrawing from sense object means?
Withdrawing from sense objects, you can look at any of the sense objects that by default, we use our sense objects for material things, either to enjoy, generally to enjoy. For example, take seeing. I am seeing, oh, this object is good looking, beautiful looking. How do I enjoy this? Either by seeing or in a subtle way also. Or say when you hear something that, oh, this is beautiful, melodious. I want to hear this. So what are we using this for? We are using it to enjoy our senses at the material world level. Krishna says, withdraw these senses means you stop engaging your senses at the material level. But Krishna says that if you stop or forcefully stop engaging your senses in material level, it will be like torture. Rather, Krishna says, the next step, which will be in 2.59, which is param drishtva, means engage your senses in higher taste. Now, when I say seeing, don't see, it does not mean we have to walk with our eyes closed. What that means is that when you see something, you follow anukulya se sankalpa, pratikulya se varjanam, which I described a few minutes ago. Anukulya se sankalpa means if I see something beautiful and it is enjoyment at the material level, that is pratikul, I will reject it. But if I see Krishna or take darshan of Krishna, that is anukul, that is favorable for bhakti. So I will keep doing more and more and more. For example, Dhara, present here among us, she goes to Mangala Aarti every single day. What is Dhara trying to do? Dhara is forcefully trying to take darshan every single morning of Gopinath so that that impression stays in the mind, so that other things that you see every day throughout the day are not as beautiful as our beautiful Gopinath. Jinal, does that help you?
Yes, thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Very good. Abhishek Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. So you're just thinking that, so like what I have experienced that I try to like restrict some of the activities, and for some time it will work while we continue with our practices. Then maybe once in a while it becomes too much. But this cycle kind of repeats, but maybe the effect slowly decreases.
Yeah, very good. This is explained in Nectar of Devotion at great length in the preface, at the very start. It says, Chapala Sukha, that we keep fluctuating, that I want this happiness, that I don't want this happiness, meaning material things. So visualize a clock with a pendulum. That the pendulum at the start, when you start devotional service, the pendulum is oscillating very fast, and the distance the pendulum is oscillating is also very fast. As you progress in spiritual life, that oscillation of the pendulum will slow down, as well as the distance of the oscillation is also less. Means you are getting distasteful from material. Therefore, that initial oscillation is very fast because you have material taste. Oh, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. But as you lose taste of material and you gain taste for spiritual, that oscillation will keep coming down and down and down. And in I think it's in chapter 5, Krishna will describe, or somewhere in chapter 3, 4, and 5, Krishna will describe that you will become steady like a flame in a windless farm. Abhishek Prabhu?
Thank you.
Yeah, very good. Very good inquiries. Jinal 2.59 translation.
Yes. Though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness.
Param drishtva nivartate. So there are key words in this verse. One is Vishaya, and then Param drishtva nivartate. So for a conditioned soul, the sense objects are like food. And when one does not get the sense objects, he feels, I am not getting my food. Meaning, similar to how we feel hungry on fasting days, all the senses feel hungry. But this food is not essential food. We mistake irresistible to be essential. Example, alcoholic things. Alcohol is irresistible. And alcoholic things that alcohol is essential. Essential is that without which we cannot survive, such as food, water, sleep. Alcohol is not essential. It may be irresistible, but it is not essential. Alcoholic may think that alcohol is essential, but he is not. Most of the time, we fail in our struggle with sense objects because we mistake irresistible to be essential, just as the alcoholic. When one overcomes by lust, one feels, I need this, but actually, you don't need it. What seems irresistible in passion or ignorance, as we come to goodness and to transcendence, we realize, I don't need this. Just as an alcoholic who thinks alcohol is essential as well as irresistible, when he goes through therapy and comes out of his addiction, he realizes, I don't need this. Why? Because he has moved from the ignorant stage to a little bit towards goodness. This is how we become purified from the craving or that feeling of necessity. That we move from ignorance and passion to goodness and transcendence, where we realize that whatever seems irresistible is actually not required at all. But this craving for sense enjoyment remains. Therefore, one feels, I need it. I will give you a practical example from myself from this. So the solution for this leftover craving in us, which Krishna has described as param drishtva nivartate, means the person gets higher taste. Srila Prabhupada explains in this lecture for 2.49, it's a lecture that you will get as part of your homework. Prabhupada says durena. Prabhupada emphasizes in the lecture to this word durena. Durena was from 2.49 verse, durena hi avram karma. So Prabhupada says durena, by force, throw away all these abominable desires. So initially, by understanding this Bhagavad Gita knowledge, one has to forcefully stop the negative, meaning forcefully stop the material level enjoyment. Simultaneously, do devotional service, do chanting, read scriptures in association of devotees to develop the higher taste. Therefore, from day one, I have been saying to endeavor, because this endeavor is going to develop the higher taste. I did not make it up. It comes directly from 2.59. Develop the spiritual higher taste by endeavoring on spirituality. So to understand this example, the two-step example, use the drunkard example. So for a drunkard to come out of his addiction, first he has to stop going to the bar. This is the forceful stopping the material level. Simultaneously, he has to take therapy. And that second step is to develop the higher taste by devotional service. So I will give you a practical example. So many years back, many decades back, when I was in India, I had traveled to Bombay for the first time. I'm still saying Bombay. I traveled to Bombay for the first time, and my uncle who lives in Bombay, he took me to a place to eat. So my uncle lives in Bhayandar, and the place he took me to eat, I think was at Churchgate railway station or Bombay Central. Either way, Churchgate and Bombay Central are close by. Either way is quite a distance. For those of you who may know, the distance between Bhayandar and Churchgate is quite a distance. Now, he took me to this restaurant to eat something. This was before I was in Krishna consciousness. And 5 years later, I again traveled to Bombay and I finished my business that I was supposed to finish. And on the last day, I said, I want to go to that restaurant to eat what I had eaten 5 years ago, that taste remained. So on the last day of this travel, 5 years later, I took a train from Bhinder all the way to Churchgate or wherever that location was to eat that same item and come back. That was quite a travel. I had no other business. I had no other activity. I simply traveled this far to eat and to come back. This is how taste remains. And we have been enjoying life, enjoying our senses for 155 trillion years in this cycle of creation, and that taste remains in us. Therefore, we need to develop. And therefore, what Abhishek Prabhu was explaining, that we keep oscillating. And as we become advanced, we will become steady. Everybody on the same page? I'm going to ask you a question. I'll pause here for a moment.
Prabhuji,
Yeah, go ahead.
I think this helped me to understand something. What you said just now, it clarified a lot of my doubts as well. There was a story my mother used to tell me when I was a child that there was a yogi in Bengal, Sri Ramakrishna Paramhansa, and he had a devotee who used to, Girish Ghosh, used to be very interested in drinking and women. And he said that, I keep changing the drink labels, keep changing, but nothing is happening. My senses are still there. So Ramakrishna said, just change the destination. That's all. And you just said that if the destination is Ma Kali or Krishna, then the senses will automatically surrender into get fixed there, because that's something he has not experienced. Otherwise, the destination will keep changing because we latch on to something we experienced already.
Yeah.
We can't imagine what we haven't experienced. Probably that's why I need a guru who's willing to share what we have inexperienced and we need to experience.
Very good,
Thank
very
you.
good realization that Guru shows the way and he also walks the way so that we can follow and reach the same higher taste destination. Very good. Thank you for sharing. So I have a question for you all. Does this make sense to you that right now I have so much taste for material enjoyment and simultaneously I have no taste for spirituality? In this condition, if you ask me to give up material things, isn't it torture, everybody? Isn't it torture? And my second question is, how do I develop spiritual taste? Everybody, isn't that a reasonably valid question here? Okay, Pauline says yes. Rest of you? Is this torture? How do you develop spiritual taste then?
Yes, it's a torture, Prabhuji. And to develop it, we should go to temple, have darshan. We should attend the kirtan.
Okay. Okay, very good. Rest of you, anybody wants to speak?
I think we have to start somewhere. And whatever little we do will help us to move forward.
Okay, so let me explain. Jinal wants to say something?
By engaging into spiritual activities.
Okay, very good. So I will explain how to develop spiritual taste. It's described in Srimad Bhagavatam multiple places. I will briefly summarize. So Srila Narad Muni explains by his own example, his own experience from his previous life, that Srila Narad Muni was an ordinary 5-year-old Shudra boy, and by following this Bhakti Yoga process, this ordinary 5-year-old Shudra boy goes on to become a pure devotee that we all know as Srila Narad Muni. So at the high level, this process, this is described in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5 and 6. Mr. Abhishek Prabhu and Matan Prabhu are in the other batch where this discussion is going to come up very, very soon. So step 1 is be disciplined. I had given you this verse at the very start of our Bhagavad Gita study and a lecture on discipline, 1.5.24. Step 1 is be disciplined. Here, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, from pure devotee is the process. Therefore, I give Srila Prabhupada's lecture every single week for you all to listen to. Do not hear Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam from this so-called Bhagavad Sapta, which is very popular in India, because they are contaminated. And if you hear Srimad Bhagavatam from this Bhagavad Sapta, is like drinking milk that is touched by a poisonous snake. Means your consciousness will get poisoned. Follow instructions of pure devotee, spiritual master. By honoring remnants of prasadam of a pure devotee, your heart gets cleansed. And the most important is by serving a pure devotee, the taste of devotional service and bhakti develops in you. If you want to develop spiritual taste, hear and read Srimad Bhagavatam in devotee association. Yeah, first you need ABCD, which is Bhagavad Gita. So there is a Bhagavatam class that is going on in batch number 5, which has just started. For those of you interested, you are welcome to join. And if not, another Srimad Bhagavatam batch is going to start probably in July 2025 sometime. So you can aim to join the other Bhagavatam class. Plus, the most important is to hanker for devotional service. This will destroy your material desires. Everybody on the same page? Got some steps? Yeah, Abhishek Prabhu is correct. From Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 2, Canto 1, that by doing service to a devotee, you develop taste for hearing Krishna Katha. I think it's 1.2.16 or 17 plus minus around there. Everybody on the same page? Questions, comments, realizations?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So how can we make materialistic people to, say this thing, to like wanting to learn spiritual, wanting to know spiritual and spirituality, they are already in material mind.
Yeah.
How can we tell them to do this?
Yeah, if you tell them that drop material and study spiritual, what are they going to tell you?
Yeah, they won't even talk to you.
Yeah, they say go away.
Yeah.
Exactly what we discussed in 2.58 and 2.59. So you need them, which is described in Bhagavad Gita 3.13 and 14 purport. Prabhupada has described spiritual bullets, means prasadam. Don't push them. Prabhupada say, give them prasadam, get their mind cleansed, then they will be able to even be receptive for spirituality. And Krishna also gives in 3.26 that don't disturb materialistic people. Just try to engage them in devotional service, whatever is possible. So I will tell you, at least for me, devotees just say, oh, can you please just drop us here for book distribution? This was before I did anything, was 15 years back. They just told me, can you just drop us there because you have a car? So what did they do? They just engaged me in service to drop off devotees who were going for book distribution. And this created Agyat Sukruti for me. And they engaged me in service of my spiritual master, which is also Matan Prabhu's spiritual master. At the time, he was not my spiritual master. They just said, no, just go and serve him. You just go and meet him. Just hold his bag. That's all I did. I held back for my spiritual master. And he said, okay, give me Bhagavad Gita in so-and-so language from the bag that I was holding, and he was distributing. That became a direct service for a pure devotee, which generated the taste. So materialistic people, don't try to disturb them. Give them prasad. If somebody is receptive, tell them, okay, are you willing to come for do some service? As long as they are not disturbed. Matan Prabhu?
Yes, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Very good. So spiritual endeavor. Everybody now realizes the importance of spiritual endeavor. I want answers from everyone. Many of you still are not endeavoring. Everybody realizes the importance of spiritual endeavor?
Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Will you all be willing to do spiritual endeavor before end of day Wednesday?
Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, very good. So very simple spiritual endeavor. You should always, you take my simple as with a grain of salt. By now you should know I am very tricky. So mandatory spiritual endeavor question. ISKCON has 4 regulative principles to follow. No meat eating, no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling. Question is, are these 4 regulative principles of restrictions, or are they something else? Everybody understands the question? Yes, no, everybody understands the question, what I said?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. So next question is, read all the verses that we covered. So we covered up to 2.59. And I will send you Prabhupada lectures to listen to. They are spectacular lectures. And for the next class, I have sent to everybody this chart. I want everybody to print it and bring it at the next class. We will be populating this at our next class. I gave it ahead of time. Does everybody have it? Jinal, I think I have sent it to you also.
I need to check, Prabhuji.
Okay. If you want, I can post it in the chat right now, and you can download. Let me post it in the chat.
Prabhuji, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You can just download. Okay, I posted in the chat. You can just download, print and bring at next class, or draw. It's pretty straightforward boxes. So we will populate this at our next class. And I will send the Google form link where you will populate the answer to a simple question. You have also space for populating stacking points and inquiries if you have any. Everybody on the same page? Anybody wants to repeat the spiritual endeavor for today? Somebody quickly, we have just past 4 p.m. counter time.
Hare Krishna, Guruji. First question is 4 regulative principles to follow: no meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, and no gambling. What are these 4 principles only for restriction, or there is some other purpose also, something else? Okay. And second is read till 2.59, which is covered today, all the verses and purpose.
Yeah, and then Prabhupada lectures. Listen to Prabhupada.
Yes.
So we discussed in 2.59 that how Narad Muni became Narad Muni from an ordinary 5-year-old boy is that he followed the Bhakti Yoga process. One of the processes is to hear from a pure devotee. Srila Prabhupada is a pure devotee. I have done a lot of homework to give you specific lectures to what we are discussing. I'm not giving you random lectures. I'm giving you very specific to what we are discussing in class, so that when you listen from Srila Prabhupada, it solidifies whatever we have discussed in class. So please try to endeavor. Padma Kumar Prabhu, you're saying, okay, let me repeat. So Padma Kumar Prabhu has a question that 2.54, 4 questions and the verse references, I will repeat. Okay, please write down. So Arjuna asked 4 questions in 2.54. Ka bhasha means characteristics, answered in 2.55. Second, Kim Prabhaseta means speech. Questions 1 and 2 are related. This is answered in 2.56 and 57. Third is Kim Asita, how restrain senses, answered in 2.58 to 63. Fourth is Kim Vrajeta, how engage senses. This is answered in 2.64 to 71. Padma Kumar Prabhu, okay.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, we are just about past 4 p.m. Are we okay to stop here?
Hey, I have one question.
Yeah, Abhishek.
So, Arjuna, you explained that we have to understand his situation in terms of following his duty, or not following his duty. But I'm not able to understand the compassion argument of killing his relative. Like, how do we relate to that situation?
We already answered this at our last class, that what is compassion here? When Arjuna is killing the old bodies of, say, Bhishma and Drona, they are actually going to get much better body in their next life. And it is Krishna's will. Krishna is the supreme judge to remove the aggressors from the material world. The purpose of material world is so that all citizens can practice spirituality so as to go back home to Godhead. And kings like Duryodhan are not going to teach that to citizens. Therefore, Krishna wanted his devotees like Yudhishthir and Parikshit Maharaj and Arjuna to be the king so that they can teach spirituality to everyone. This was the purpose. All these kings had become a burden on earth. This will get covered in Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1 very soon, where Abhishek Prabhu and Matan Prabhu are there. That they became burden on earth. Therefore, the burden had to be removed. Why burden? Because they were doing all these atrocities and not letting people practice spirituality. Therefore, we discussed earlier that the living standard during the Mahabharata times was actually contaminated standard, not the actual standard. Abhishek Prabhu, does that help you?
Yes, Prabhuji, but I'm not understanding that how does those things help me in following my duties? Like, I was trying to.
So very good. So when we finish chapter 2, I will show a slide which I have anyway repeated earlier also, and I'll repeat right now. This word killing seems very jarring. In chapter 2, all the section titles replace the word fight by doing your duty. For Arjuna, because he is a Kshatriya, his duty is fighting. We all are Shudras. Our duty is to serve the other Varnas and do devotional service. That's what you focus on rather than being hung up on this fight. I am not Kshatriya, at least I don't think, Abhishek, you are also Kshatriya. So don't get hung up on fight. Bhagavad Gita has nothing to do with fight. Bhagavad Gita is about teaching you to live in this world with detachment Do your duty with detachment so that you can get purified and go back home to Godhead. Abhishek Prabhu.
Yes, thank you.
Padma Kumar Prabhu, you are asking Zoom link for Bhagavatam. If you want to please connect with me offline, we can discuss that part. Nishan Prabhu saying, okay, so Nishan Prabhu is asking that we need to detach, but on a day-to-day basis, we are taking help from material things to make our life easier. So how do we detach? So we'll practice at great length. Very good inquiry. We'll practice at great length. Right now we are studying theory only. We will practice how to live at the level of soul, how to dovetail our day-to-day activity into Krishna consciousness. We will practice. In brief, right now, what I will explain is that instead of trying to live a very comfortable life, try to live in the material world just about enough to keep the body and soul together. Don't try to make your bodily comforts more than what is required, just about enough that you can keep the body and soul together so that you can do devotional service. So if you are trying to earn money more and more and more, it's not going to help you because you are trying to be at the bodily level. So earn money just about enough to keep the body and soul together, to maintain your family, and spend more time on spirituality. That way you will become detached little by little. Don't think this detachment will happen overnight. It's a little step-by-step process. Nishan Prabhu, does that help you?
Yeah, Prabhuji. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Very good inquiries. Are we okay to stop here?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.